The elaboration of communication and marketing strategies for mobility in general relies on well-known methods and tools. However, the integration of electromobility in these strategies creates new paradigms and principles which must be considered in order to ensure the success of the related projects. For instance, e-mobility requires behavior changes from the users in many ways, such as fueling, driving, maintenance, and so on. There are also changes for the organizations of fleet, the rules of management of this fleet, the organization and exploitation of the vehicles have to be adapted according to the performances and the constraints of the vehicles, and the related knowledge have to be acquired. Moreover, some actors are new in the mobility domain. For instance, the supply of energy is also deeply changed, and the relations with the distribution network is based on new concepts. And of course, the involvement of the digital world is increased. So the strategy must be adapted to the resulting new expectations of all these actors. Moreover, the technology is evolving quickly, changing the basic paradigms like the consideration of autonomy. Then, this strategy must be flexible enough to be adapted to these evolutions. One of the best ways is to communicate on the long-term objectives as clearly as possible. For instance, the transport of passengers and goods in the city center will be fully electric in 20 years. And it is also important to identify the main milestones of the first years, such as progressive introduction of e-buses in the BRT systems or electric deliveries in the core center of the city in the 3 years. These projects must be also clearly identified as part of the whole mobility strategy. For instance, the increase of the BRT systems, special frequency increase, or the creation of urban consolidation center for logistic purpose, to refer to what I've said before. Or it could be indirect, like the implementation of car sharing with EVs, or the obligation to have charging stations in new residential buildings. We have discussed the technological characteristics which modify the communication and marketing strategy. There are also important aspects to be considered concerning the awareness or knowledge of the stakeholders in this domain. Clearly, most of them do not know really what is electromobility, even though there's more and more discussions on this topic in various media. Therefore, adaptive capacity building is a very important pillar of the communication and marketing strategy for all stakeholders, from the local authorities to the citizen. This can be realized through diverse channels, classical media, workshops, webinars, and so on. But that could be also done through more proactive actions like contests, not only hackathon or digital contests, but also technical contests or competitions. Or that could be done also through support to startups and other actions. The management of the communication is also influenced by the novelty of the domain and the previous specificities. For instance, the possible changes of roles for one or several stakeholders along the project must be anticipated, and clear reposition has to be notified to them to avoid ambiguities. There are also other communication components which need to be adapted, and more particularly the identification of small groups or small interest groups like taxis, craftsmen or delivery service, which have their specific expectations and requirements. And you have also to adapt the methods for manage these communities based on new tools adapted to these groups. On top of that, you have also to verify that performance and impact indicators of the communication itself are well related to e-mobility aspects and not mixed with others. To conclude, on this very short overview of the main characteristics of communication and marketing strategies for electromobility, I would like to point out some recommendations, especially for local authorities. Electromobility requires to be visible, especially in areas and countries where it is not an obvious and evident motorization. It is necessary to show that it exists and is strongly pushed by the municipality. Charging stations must be easily identifiable, as well as electric buses, and in some cases, the electric fleet of cars or duty vehicles. But all the services of the local authorities have to be involved in the promotion of electromobility. Not only the department dealing with urban planning and environment, but also administrative and finance department, for instance through the tendering, making room for electric deliveries, or the culture through exposition or events, or the education department to train or to inform pupils and students in schools or in colleges, or through the support of startups. So the whole local authority staff must be encouraged to contribute to these communication activities.
Hello, my name is Fernando Granizo, and I am Director of Policies and Environmental Planning at Quito's Secretariat of Environment. Today, we are going to talk about our communication strategy for our SOLUTIONSplus pilot in the Historic Center of Quito. The aim of this strategy is to raise awareness and at the same time promote community empowerment around this project.
Quito Demo has three main components. The first and most important is the consolidation of the Historic Center as a low-emission zone by introducing locally produced light electric vehicles such as e-cargo bikes, e-quadricycles and e-vans that can enhance the passenger connectivity and last mile logistics in the area, in which several streets have already been turned into pedestrian streets. Communication strategy considering the following points. First, Historic Center of Quito is an area with special economic and social characteristics, where commerce, restaurants, touristic and cultural services have become the main activities instead of residential use of dwellings. In this sense, we have established a socialization process with the participation of business associations and residents in the area. Their acceptance and support are fundamental for the success of the project. The socialization process that will take place in the whole year 2021 will include workshops with residents, business owners and traders. And the presentation of the project will depend on the degree of involvement of each one of the groups. Some groups will be informed, others will be consulted, and the specific target group identified as potential users of the vehicles will be co-creators. For this last point, we have considered the organization of a workshop between vehicle manufacturers and potential users to include the user needs in the final vehicle design. The communication strategy for Quito demonstration project also considered a social media campaign based on technical and conceptual elements about sustainable mobility. Finally, we will develop a set of key indicators in order to evaluate the communication strategy, which will be collected through satisfaction surveys after each workshop or event and socialization activities. Regarding to this objective, we have coordinated different workshops and meetings with representatives of municipality departments and municipal public companies. We have confirmed specific working groups related to particular topics in the demonstration project. Specifically, we presented the project to all relevant municipal entities in order to establish commitment and engagement from the local counterpart in the design, development, and implementation of the pilot. In addition, we organized a presentation and exhibition of the vehicle prototype to local authorities, including the mayor. The activity helped the project to have political support, visibility, and media coverage. It is important to mention that all these activities were a preamble of Climate Change Action Plan for Quito 2020 launch event, which represent the city roadmap to contribute voluntarily to the fulfillment of Paris Agreement. As the pilot of e-mobility in the historic center of Quito is considered as a strategic project in the plan. We promoted its visibility on this event with the presence of relevant authorities at local, national, and international level. Finally, at national level, we have coordinated specific meetings with Public Works Ministry, and we have participated in the construction of the National Strategy of Electromobility, which represents an important milestone for our country on this matter. Besides the socialization process with the directly affected population in the historic center of Quito, we would like to increase the visibility of the project in order to gain interest from different players in the city, such as big companies or food and beverage companies, or just coffee shops that might be interested in participating in the project by directly purchasing one of the vehicles. For this, we will, on one hand, branding the prototypes that will circulate and to be tested in the area, and by other hand, designing a communicational campaign to vote for the name of the vehicle. Have a good experience with a short test executed before, and we could evidence the interest of residents and traders in the use of this type of vehicles, particularly because they found them useful for the topography, narrow streets, and hills of the zone.
Dr. Khanh, can you tell us what the SOLUTIONSplus Hanoi demo is?
The Hanoi SOLUTIONSplus pilot project focuses on testing a shared last-mile e-mobility system that caters to the needs of the citizens of Hanoi and contributes towards the wider goals of the city. This system would feature e-motorcycles and e-bikes that are equipped with state-of-the-art sensors, an accompanying back-end system and front-end interface to aid operation and monitoring. The pilot project aimed to support the overall goal of Hanoi to increase public transport ridership, and thus we would be testing the system in a way that it would connect people from a major BRT station to a main destination catchment area that is currently not served by appropriate last-mile services.
How do you define the target audience, and how are you involving them?
Stakeholders that we need to consult with to enrich our views and validate our approaches, such as stakeholders from the academies, other government agencies, for example. There are also those that we need to keep informed We structure our communication approaches based on the type of stakeholders that we engage with.
What type of communication tools are expected in the strategy? For example, website and social media, surveys, focus groups, campaigns, etc.
We envisage the use of different media and tools to reach out to different stakeholders in an effective manner. For example, we did recognize the need to provide information about the pilots to the potential users in the demo area. We want them to get excited, we want them to anticipate, therefore we are currently developing a video clip that would target these potential users and inform them about what the demo is and what it would look like. In addition, we are planning to design some posters, standee, handout to place and distribute at the mall and the BRT station to raise the potential users' awareness about the project. The necessary information will be played on all the buses that going through the two destinations of the project to ensure that as many target users as possible know about the demo.
Communication should be monitored and evaluated to see whether it is effective and efficient. Are you investigating a scheme including some key indicators to do so?
We intend to use appropriate tools for measuring the effectiveness and efficiencies of our communication activities and embed them accordingly. Say, for example, questions can be embedded in evaluation surveys relating to one-off activities such as conference, workshops, and we are also exploring means to generate metrics relating to social media. We also emphasize the value of gathering insights through the conversation with our stakeholders, and we also intend to use this as means for informing us about the effectiveness, efficiency, not only of our communication activities, but the program in general.
And communications beyond final users. Several departments of the local authorities must be involved and convey the key message in a consistent way. How do you communicate and cooperate with the energy, urban planning, public works departments, and what about the regional and national level?
The effective conveyance of message to different types of stakeholders at different levels does require an acknowledgement that there is no one-size-fits-all communication approach. There are a lot of nuance and intricacies that we need to thread through to be able to convey a message. The variation in how we approach different stakeholders also take into account the possible need to repackage the same message and emphasize those angles that resonate well with the target audience. We also try to identify and work closely with the local champions in these different stakeholder groups, as these champions are normally a key ingredient in facilitating communication.
What do you think is the role of promotion, communication, marketing in ensuring the success of the demo activities as well as in supporting wider e-mobility transformation in Hanoi?
E-mobility transformation requires systematic changes, and such changes can only occur if we are able to entice the relevant parts or stakeholders in this case to contribute to the cause. Communication, outreach, and marketing activities act as important levers as this contributes towards the generating interest and support, and in ensuring that we are able to identification of synergy, anticipation of the potential conflict, and pathway for cooperation.
Are there specific challenges related to communications, marketing, and promotions that you foresee, and how do you plan to address this?
Since sharing vehicle service is really new in Vietnam, it takes time to raise the user awareness on this. we will need to use different kinds of marketing strategy to ensure that the potential users see the benefits of this last mile solution. These kinds of promotion will need not only time and money investment, but the cooperation of the stakeholders.